Get in the action on the Action Addicts Podcast. No greater faction than the action movie scene. Get in the action on the Action Addicts Podcast. Your satisfaction, action on the silver screen. Get in the action on the Action Addicts Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. My name is Scott Wiley, and you're listening to the Action Addicts Podcast. And on today's episode of the show, we will be talking about the second attempt to make a Dredd movie. And in my opinion, the good attempt to make a Dredd movie. Not that the first film isn't entertaining, but it is very far removed from the source material, and the second film goes out of its way to be the polar opposite. You've got one film where the character barely wears a helmet, and the other film, which is the one we're going to be talking about today, where the character never removes the helmet, and one is played by Sylvester Stallone and one is played by Karl Urban. Now, unfortunately, this film didn't do very well at the theatrical box office. There are many reasons for that. The main one, in my opinion, is that it came out the same year that both The Raid and The Avengers, the first one, came out, and it wasn't that people weren't interested in it. It was that there was just such big movies out around it being talked about. And yes, there was some controversy that we didn't actually get into in this episode because that wasn't the focus, but there is this belief that this movie stole the same premise as The Raid, and that this was them trying to capitalize on The Raid because The Raid, wasn't an English-speaking movie, except that isn't true, because obviously movies don't come out the second that they finish being shot, and whilst there is, and whilst The Raid did technically come out first if you count when it was released at a film festival, Dredd was already in production long before The Raid could have had a massive influence on it. And so it's one of those things where, depending on where you are in the world, this is either a weird issue or a non-starter issue, because again, release dates vary. I'm pretty sure The Raid did technically come out like the year before, but not from the vast majority of the planet it didn't. And as you'll hear in the episode, I've been an on and off fan of the comics that this movie is adapted from. Sitting across from where I am is Thrill Power Overload and one of the big Judge Dredd compilations of like the older issues. I have the 5th volume, which is, they're both signed by, I believe it's Pat Mills, the creator of Dredd, or one of the creators of Dredd, which I got from a Comic-Con convention. So yeah, he was a cool dude, and I really, I got that particular volume at his recommendation because it had, in his opinion, some of Dredd's better stories from that era. And the Thrill Power book was, the making of the 2000 AD comic book and all that stuff, and I've seen the documentary, and it was really interesting because, again, Thrill Power and 2000 AD, all that stuff, it was British comic books, and a lot of the 2000 AD guys would go on to America, and they would work at Image, they would work at Marvel, they would work at DC, and a lot of the 2000 AD people are a lot more influential than maybe the average fan realizes, because you may know them, but when you know them, they were working at the big American publishers. But they all can be tied back to their time in the, relatively speaking, smaller British comic book scene. Especially at the time period that these came out in. A lot of why they were able to get away with creating a character like Dredd was basically because nobody cared about comics in the UK, and they were nowhere near as strictly regulated as the, American comic book code and all of that was. But with that said, we are joined today by Zoe Elizabeth, who is a first-time guest for the show, but is most certainly not a one-time wonder, because we already have another episode with Zoe recorded and waiting to be edited. Probably be in about 3-ish weeks you'll hear it, maybe 4, depending on editing. But Zoe is an absolute delight. She was a genuine pleasure to have on the show. She's got great thoughts about movies, and she's a huge film buff in general, not just action movies. And so I imagine once I'm all caught up on this current backlog, Zoe will 100% become one of the people that we add to the rotating list of guests. Zoe seemed very up for that. And we've already got multiple films to pick from, so she may end up coming on with other people who have also shared interest in similar movies. But I will leave the rest to ourselves from the past, and I will let you enjoy the conversation, and I will see you for the outro. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here, we're live, we're back in the room, and as you will have seen by the title of today's episode, we are going to finally be talking about Dredd. Not to be confused with Judge Dredd, which I just can't bring myself to rewatch, so we're going to skip straight to Dredd. If you're a fan of that movie, cool. Today, we've got a very special guest. If you follow this show, then you probably know who she is, because she has a fairly big following online in our circle, but I'm going to let her introduce herself so that I don't say the wrong thing. But I'm very happy that we have you here today. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing really well, Scott. Thank you for having me. I'm Zoe. Introduce myself to all of our friends. Yeah, my name is Zoe, and it's very nice to be here today.
Sweet. I would normally do this at the end, but as I've started to do recently, for those who may not know who you are, would you care to give a brief introduction, as this is the first, but hopefully not last time you'll be on the show?
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Zoe. I am from Southern California. I am not in the movie business, like in any kind of professional capacity. I'm just a real big movie enjoyer. Found my way into action movies a couple of years ago, and now that's like the main part of my diet. But you'll see me on Twitter a lot of times talking about Jason Statham or Hellraiser or the Dodgers. If you see any of that floating around, there's a solid chance that it's coming from me.
I have definitely seen 1 or 2 posts from you about the Dodgers over the last week or two, which will definitely age when this episode was recorded.
Yeah, now that the World Series is concluded, I'm like, what do I do? Like, I have now my evenings are free, and now I can watch more movies. Had to take a little break for a while there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do a movie show podcast. Even I find myself just like, I don't want to watch any more movies, man. I can't do it. Give me something else. Give me a book. Give me a TV show. Give me a video game. Let's go for a walk. Let's live life, but not a film.
Right, going outside, touching grass. I remember that.
No, don't get crazy. Don't get crazy.
Whoa. Slow down.
So, I sent you a list of films that were kind of on my radar of things I wanted to cover, and you are the first person to very enthusiastically pick Dredd, which makes me think that you might be a fan of this movie.
Just a little teeny tiny bit. I love this movie. I went through like a hot streak last year where I was just putting it on. We'd get home, I'd be with friends, we'd get home from like the bar or the club, and I wouldn't tell anybody. I would just put it on. And it went over surprisingly well for how many times that I did do it. Usually better with the guys than the girls, but I love this movie. I find it almost endlessly rewatchable. I actually just finished watching it this morning. I was like, even though I've seen this movie like 15 times, I was like, I gotta watch it again and like take notes so I'm ready to talk about talking points. But so yeah, this morning I finished like the back half of it, and it's just the coolest fucking movie ever. Just about.
I agree. When this came out, I saw it in the cinema, I'm pretty sure. It came out in a very, very stacked year with a lot of competition. But I distinctly remember seeing the trailers for it and that slow-mo effect with all of the bright lights and pretty colors just being like, in my head, remembering the other Dredd and being like, wow, that looks a lot better than it could.
Significant improvement.
Yeah, and obviously the fact that Karl Urban himself was very much a staunch defender of the helmet's never coming off, and Dredd's never going to smile or crack a joke. And the fact that he wouldn't even let them take the helmet off when they weren't filming because he was paranoid that somebody would use footage of him with the helmet off in the film, I am so in love with. And I'm just
love that. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I didn't know that until I looked into it, and he was, apparently he took the role very seriously and said, if we're going to do it, then we're going to do it properly. And that starts with, you're never seeing my eyes. Even when that opening shot where he's getting dressed, he was very specific that like, the camera's not coming anywhere near my face. You can see the rest of me, but you're not seeing Joe's face. And for those listening, that's Dredd's first name. He is Joe Dredd.
I'm so glad they don't call him Joe Dredd in the movie. That kind of nerfs the whole scary badass guy feel.
The thing is when that was sort of quote unquote revealed, it was kind of a throwaway line in the books, and then eventually they sort of came back to it like decades later and reworked it into like a story. And so it's the sort of thing that when it was originally written and the book was still very much understood as being a satirical, over-the-top comedy, it wasn't really an issue. But obviously now, since then, there's quite a lot of people that take it very seriously. So, like you said, Joe Dredd. It's it feels more like it belongs in Stallone's Dredd than Karl's Dredd.
Agreed. I never got the chance to see this I had a chance to see it in theaters, but I wasn't like tapped in like that back then. And not seeing this in 3D is something that it does hurt my heart a little bit. Like I like, damn, I really goofed it. It's great on the TV in my living room. It's amazing on the TV in my living room, but seeing this in theaters in 3D would have been insane. I can't even imagine what that would have been like.
I mean, pretty much what it looks like now, only with 3D.
Fair enough, Scott. Fair enough.
I've never been a massive 3D believer. I have seen movies in 3D that were very, very impressive, but I've never bought into the fad. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because a quite well-known fact about Dredd is that it didn't do very well. And in the UK, especially, a big part of that is because it was in 3D, and there weren't very many, if any, in some places 2D screenings, and the vast majority of the population went, oh, well, I'm not going to worry then.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that 3D release really hurt the movie. And the funny thing is even though they knew that, my physical copy that I rewatched it on isn't called Dredd. It's called Dredd 3D. It's a 3D Blu-ray. And I'm just like, did you guys not get the hint that the 3D really wasn't that popular?
The room.
I can't actually rewatch it in 3D because I don't have a 3D Blu-ray player or a 3D television, funnily enough. But, I put those 3D translucent glasses fondly next to the red and blue 3D glasses of the 80s and 90s. And it's like, I look forward to the next time 3D comes back around, and I can put that one on the shelf next to them to collect dust. It'll be a nice little through the eras of failures. So you didn't see this one in the cinema. When did you first see this one?
I probably first saw this one, I'm going to say 7-ish, 8-ish years ago, something like that. That'd be my best guess. And I watched it, I thought it was cool, but I didn't like, the obsession didn't immediately catch for me. But then I was in the last like 2 years. I don't know. I think probably as I started getting more into action movies and like more in that world, it clicked more. Okay. Like slight diversion, but it's relevant, I promise. So I come from a family of like film people, film majors, people that work like that actually have like worked in like TV and film production. So I was raised on like Kubrick and like Miyazaki and stuff like that. So my dad showed me like Jurassic Park and stuff, but we weren't watching like big budget action movies when I was growing up. And then when I started getting more into film in my own regard, when I was like in my early teens, like 13 or 14, I was like strictly on like an all David Lynch diet. And I was like a 13-year-old snob. I was like, I have no interest in these big budget blockbuster action movies. Like that's pedestrian. And then fast forward like, 10, 15 years. And now that's like 90% of what I watch. But yeah, I wasn't in like the headspace to fully appreciate it when I was younger. And then as I've gotten older and broadened my appreciation for all different types of film, including and especially action movies. Yeah, a couple years ago, I watched it again and I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. Like, it also, I love RoboCop. So, and this is definitely is in that like realm.
Oh
It
yeah,
scratches
definitely.
yeah, like, yeah, and now I watch it
So
maybe once a month, if not more. I love
Jesus,
this movie.
that's a lot of dread. So you might already know this, but fun fact if you don't, RoboCop is one half of his inspiration is Judge Dredd, the comic book.
Makes sense.
And the other half is a Japanese series called Space Sheriff Gavan, which is where his aesthetic came from. His personality is Dredd. His silver metal suit is Gavan's silver metal suit, who, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, he was a space sheriff. So again, not too dissimilar in theme, completely different execution.
Yeah.
Think a heavy metal police cop in space, like Dredd, but done through the lens of, say, Power Rangers.
Okay.
And that's Space Sheriff, the entire Space Sheriff franchise, because there's more than just Gavan, but he was the original. But yeah, when you see a picture of RoboCop and Gavan next to each other, you go, oh wow, there's inspired by, and then there's, we'll just take that.
Oh, be taking that?
Yeah, but that's really interesting to hear, because I had very different experience in general. I was really trying not to do a Bane impression then, but I was raised on action movies, and I had the opposite opinion. So most of not Miyazaki, but most of those other guys that you just mentioned, I wouldn't watch them because my opinion of them was that they were overhyped, overrated, and 99% of their movies are a bunch of people standing around talking. I'm like, I don't need to watch a film to see that. I can look out the fucking window. Why the hell would I want to do that for 2 hours? And obviously, much like yourself, I grew, I got older, and I started to watch and expand, and I was like, oh wow, I'm so glad people can't actually hear what I used to sound like when people would ask me to watch those sorts of films.
So it turns out they're not just standing around talking.
Yes, but some of them are. And I was like, I'm not completely wrong, but no, quite a lot of them are really good. And the irony is that one of my favorite films when I was younger was Reservoir Dogs.
Love.
So I don't know how else to describe that film other than a bunch of people standing around talking. They're very serious, but it is just a bunch of people talking. So, at the end of the day, I think sometimes it's theme that matters. What are we talking about? Is it crime? Is it a thriller? Is it action? Is it serious? Or is it somebody's cheating on someone and the gossip down the street is this? Because they're very different stakes. And I think that's what got me through to trying out a lot of these other films when I was younger. Now it's, I'll watch anything. But yeah, back then it was really difficult to get me to leave my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And Dredd, the original Judge Dredd I watched in the 90s, I don't remember exactly when. I liked it. I had no prior knowledge of who Dredd was. I liked it so much that I then went and I didn't find Dredd comics, but I read some, like some were bought for me. I found some in the wild, and they were varying degrees of quality, I think is the nice way of putting it, because they came from different eras. They weren't all current, but I'm a big fan of 2000 AD, which is the label that Dredd was published in. And I like a lot of their characters. There's a previous episode that I did with Lindsay on her show, Slock and Awe, where we did Hardware, which is a complete ripoff of another 2000 AD comic that I can't remember the name of. But there is something about that era of British dystopian sci-fi in general. It has a feel that is very rarely replicated or even really like taken as inspiration, because I think it is very much a product of not only its time but its location, and the locations don't exist anymore. Even in the UK, a lot of them have been knocked down, redeveloped. The landscape has changed, and I feel like as a result of which they come across as time capsules, unlike Dredd, which unfortunately has aged beautifully to the point that it's really, really hard to call it satire anymore. And what you were saying about suddenly discovering your love for it in the last 2 years, I was chuckling then because I thought, I wonder why. What? The
Mhm.
world hasn't changed that much in the last couple of years. Can't think why you might suddenly find this really appealing.
What could have changed? I don't know. Yeah, it is disturbingly prescient. I mean, it was then, and yeah, like you said, even more so now. As I was finishing it up this morning, there's that bit towards the end where the the fake judges. I mean, they are judges, but they're doing Mama's dirty work. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, hey, we have masked people impersonating law enforcement officers doing crimes over here right now. Whoa. Garland sure does know how to paint a pretty picture of the future.
Yeah, you just hold up a mirror to the present and pretend that you're not just showing people what it's really like. But we won't go into that. You do bring up a really good point, though, that I don't know, again, if you're aware of. Obviously, Alex Garland wrote the movie, but according to Karl Urban, he also directed the movie, despite the fact he's not credited as directing the movie.
I have heard that before, but I'm not super well versed in even in any of the movies that I love, like the production and the how did it happen aspect. That's something that I am like pretty ignorant of. So I would love to hear you speak more to that.
The full story isn't really known as far as I can tell. It's more Karl Urban confirmed it, but he did do a full interview, so he might have gone into more details, but I didn't have time to read the whole thing. But he confirmed that Dredd was directed by Alex Garland, and apparently Pete Travis, who is the credited director, he refused to do any marketing or publicity for this movie. And as the interviewer and the article that I was reading at the time said, it's like, well, that makes perfect sense then, because he didn't really make the film. So why would he want to promote it? And obviously, at the time, Alex Garland was only really known as a writer. Now, I would argue he's probably better known as a director, given that he did, Ex Machina and the other one. But, his movies have gotten a lot of appeal. And I feel like when you go back and watch Dredd now, it's kind of easy to tell that it is Alex Garland making this.
Oh, yeah. I've recently become obsessed with Annihilation. I watched it for the first time a couple months ago. Yeah, I was like, I think that's what you're talking about, but
yes, it was. I just couldn't think of the name.
It's teamwork. We'll get there together. I just discovered it a few months ago and immediately became obsessed. I had to watch it again the next day. I think I've seen it probably 4 or 5 times since then. And it's cool. It was cool now going back to watch Dredd again to take my little notes and prep for the podcast. And you see these little breadcrumbs, so much of that glittery, iridescent, shimmery visual stuff with the slow-mo and Dredd. It looks like a lot of the stuff in Annihilation. And also just kind of the I feel like Garland is adept at finding / creating beauty within the nightmare, if that makes sense. The Dredd is there. It's a wasteland. It's bleak. Everything is washed out. Everything is gray and brown. And it's dirty and it's oppressive. And then the biggest pops of color you get in that movie are from blood and drugs, and that slows everything down. And it's dazzling. It's breathtaking. And with Annihilation, the same thing. There's some really beautiful stuff in the shimmer, and there's some really horrible stuff happening in there too. And then on less of an aesthetic note, more thematic, with 28 Days Later and 28 Years Later, his writing. Yes, it's the end of it's zombie apocalypse. It's looking pretty bleak, but he still has these moments of beauty and connection and these little pockets of humanity and beauty among the wasteland. And I like that about him a lot.
I definitely agree that that's in his other films, and the other films that I was trying to think of for comparison was Civil War and Warfare.
Okay, I haven't seen either of those. I need to.
Warfare is different because it's trying to, well, I'd say it succeeds at going for realism. Civil War is obviously a political commentary.
Yeah.
That I'm not going anywhere near. But it's the action in them that he definitely is a director who has an eye for action. He's done so many movies that aren't technically action movies that have really memorable action sequences in them. And I feel like when you rewatch Dredd, especially now, what you just said, I agree with 99%, but I'm not sure I'd go with It's the Beauty of Humanity in Dredd, because like you said, the only parts that are actually pretty, for want of a better way of putting it, is when you're escaping that world. The only time everything looks like nice and shiny and colorful is when the audience is being shown what it looks like to be on slow-mo. And I really appreciated that, because it's like, that is also quite a common trope in a lot of dystopian British works where, you know, the real world sucks. So instead of trying to fix it, we just escape it with drugs.
Escape it.
And I think that was a really clever way of giving that to the audience, but never having to have a character explain that. Like, let's look around at the world that the vast majority of people living. Like, a dozen people get killed in the opening of this movie, and nobody really cares. Like robots come along and clean them up, and a voice says that we'll be open again in 30 minutes. Like, this is not a world that you want to live in, despite what some people might think. Like, this is a horrific place. The Dredd even says at one point that, you know, we can only respond to 9% of all crime calls per day. Like, you can pick whichever one. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's pure luck of the draw that they ended up at Peachtrees. And as a viewer, I love that. Like, give me bleak worlds. Like, I don't want it to be nice and comparable to the real world. Like, it is in places, but I also like the fact that they were able to work in a lot of the less comparable elements from the comics. You know, they tell you there's a nuclear radiated world out there, but they don't go into it. They don't tell you what happened. They don't tell you why the American flag that does show up in the movie only has 6 stars. They don't explain most of how this world works. They just go, this is the world, deal with it, moving on, here's the story, let's go. And I vastly prefer that to some movies that try to set everything up for this massive franchise that they're clearly going to have, and then don't. And it just,
I'm big on showing over telling. I agree with you. Also, I think it's like I hate being spoon fed. Like, if you're good enough at setting up your world and like introducing your characters and are like, you know, thoughtful enough how that goes, then I'll be able to infer lots of details about what's going on. You don't have to spoon feed me every little bit of information. And I'm in total agreement with you there. Like, just drop me in. We'll figure it out later. Like, if I don't know the answer to a question I have right now, I'll find out soon.
Yeah, like completely different tangent, but I'll link it back. Lots of people lost their mind earlier in the year over the Fallout TV series that came out, and I was one of them. I really enjoyed it. However, I saw quite a few people, including a friend of mine, they were all writing articles on why it works so well, what they did right, what Bethesda did right. And there are lots of other video game to television show and movie adaptations that don't get it right. And I noticed that so many of them were making the comparison, and I thought, but it's not a fair comparison, because all of the other adaptations I'm pretty sure that have ever been done have been with video games that have a protagonist or a team of protagonists. Fallout has never done that. You make your own character and you tell your own story. And so the writers of Fallout and Bethesda did a very clever thing, which is go, these are our characters. They're not any of the stories you've seen before. We're going to set it in the same world, follow the rules of this world, and show you all the things you recognize. But our characters are not the folks from the games. But if you've played the games, you're going to recognize the locations, the history. You might even realize that we're actually pretty close to some of the games you've played, and you'll pick up a lot of lore. And I feel like Judge Dredd, with like 40 plus years of comic books, it could have been very tempting to just exposition away at the beginning and give us tons of information, introduce hundreds of characters, and instead they just stuck to Dredd, Anderson, one location. We're not going anywhere else other than Peachtrees. And I realized that they only had one film, but that wasn't the film's fault. But I think that is such a smarter way of doing it, that Fallout also channeled in a different way, which is that people want to put their own stamp on something, but you don't go in with like size 12 boots and stamp all over it. You find your little area of the play pit and go, this is mine. I'm going to do with it what I want. And it frustrates me that people can't tell the difference between that.
Yeah, it's like you better to do a couple things really well than try to do a whole bunch of stuff kind of so-so. Just narrow the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Announce an entire universe, make one film, and then cancel the whole universe. Looking at you, mummy. The dark universe. But anyway, if you had to pick from this entire film, what would be your favorite moment?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
It is, and it's not one I normally ask, but as we both really love this
Ooh.
film, I'm guessing you've got one.
I mean, pretty much anything where the slow-mo stuff is happening, I'm like clapping like a trained seal. I'm like, yay! And that's okay. It might be basic, but it's not my only answer. But the poison lips needle drop is so sick. That there's no diminishing returns on that part for me. Every single time I'm like, yes. And I was also appreciating on this as I was finishing it up this morning, that exchange where Anderson and Dredd are in the hallway and they have Kay with them, and there's like, goons coming down the hall and they need to really get out of here. I think you get out of where they're at so they're not seen. And Anderson like detects that there's somebody in that room that they're standing next to, Kathy. And she, does her psychic thing. And I don't know, I just really appreciated that like Anderson saved everybody. There's no way they're making it out of that hallway without that moment of like pure like emotional like mental psychic emotional connection. And it wasn't like guns blasting and door kicking. It was just everything slowed down. And what Olivia Thirlby and the actress whoever plays that woman, whatever their face acting is just so good. I like that. Yes, there's like big moments of like explosion and ass kicking that move everything forward, but there's also moments where things slow down, like battles that are not just won by like brawn.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. It's not my favorite moment, but for me, one of the aspects that I really liked was, as you already mentioned them, when the corrupt judge squad come in and they meet Dredd, and obviously the reputation of Dredd and a lot of people's perception of Dredd, both in universe and outside, like in our real world, is that he's just a big brute that's good with a gun. And I love the fact that he meets Chad, I think it is, and they're having a chat, and then he's like not really lowered his gun yet, and then he's like, there's two of us. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, two judges called in the SOS, so I'm curious why you didn't ask me what happened to the second judge. I was like, yeah, he's not a big dumb brawny idiot. Like he's really good at figuring stuff out very quickly, which I actually think is part of his appeal to a lot of people, is that he can't actually take down a room full of guys like a superhero or a Jason Statham. He does have the tools to allow him to do that, but he has to pick the right ones and move strategically. Otherwise, he can be shot and killed like any normal man. And I think that in and of itself has a really strong visceral appeal to a lot of people, that there are multiple points in the movie where he could get seriously wounded or die, but he manages to outsmart the opponent in whatever way, he does it. The other one that I really like is when the Gatling gun scene where they all, they think they've killed him. He comes back, throws Matey off the wall, but then later on in the movie, when you think he's doing the same thing again, he uses that white phosphorus grenade shot thing and just takes out an entire floor full of people. And again, that's just Dredd being over the top. Is that no? He's sending a message to the rest of them. Yeah, like it's strategic. He's slowly but surely taking away her support, and he does it all the way through the movie. He reminds them that they're the law, not her. And it works too. Like, you see that by the time he gets to the top floor, anybody that's left other than her like diehards, they're not trying to get in his way anymore. They're like, nope, I'm good. Oh, over there.
I'm good. Enjoy. Something that you said made me think, I love that you actually see them get, like, they get fucked up in this movie. Like, Dredd takes an armor piercing round through his, like, it looks like maybe like it's his liver or something. He gets fully shot through. Anderson gets captured. Like, I like that they're not to what you were saying. I really love that they're not infallible. She gets her gun taken. She gets captured. He gets shot. I like that we see them make mistakes and get hurt. And then they're able to like support each other and come back and continue. But yeah, I really, I like that they're not like superhero types. That's less interesting. That's way less interesting.
Well, I think an extension of that as well is how both of those things happen makes more sense than in a lot of movies where, say, the girl gets kidnapped. Doesn't matter that she's a judge in this instance, but like, well, why did they keep her alive? Why didn't they just kill her? Especially since the character that captured her had spent a decent portion of the film saying what was going to happen to her if she was caught. But I like the fact that they gave a reason that made complete sense. So you're not sat there going, well, why is she still alive? And with Dredd, he actually ran out of ammo. Like, throughout the movie, he only has a limited number of those special shots and his own ammo. And I like the fact that even though, yes, you could argue that the corrupt judges did kind of give him an easy way out because he just stole their ammo. But on the flip side, the fact that he actually was aware of his ammo count throughout the entire movie, and that did eventually come into play, like, that's why he got shot, is because, as the other judge said, I might actually be scared if I didn't know you'd just run out of bullets. Like, it's nice to see that reality. Like, yes, you are big and scary, but I'm the guy with a loaded gun, so I'm not that worried, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's not, I feel like it's very, very infrequently that, action movies that are really like, gun heavy, you actually have a character run out of ammo. And like, it's made there's a point of it in the story where it's like, oh shit, I'm out of bullets. Yeah. Like there's so many movies have seemingly unlimited amounts of ammunition. Nobody ever has to reload. Nobody has to find more. There's just endless bullets to shoot. But yeah, I like that he runs out of ammo in this. Absolutely.
And I think the other aspect that sets this movie apart, certainly from other action movies of the era, is when the blood does start flying, it can get a little bit gory, which action movies, especially post like the 2000s, they don't really do anymore. So with that opening sequence where those guys get skinned, thrown off the balcony and splat on the floor, I was fully expecting the first time I saw this for the camera to cut away. That's what almost every movie does, but it doesn't. And you also get to see close-up shots of the remains of what was three people when Dredd comes to investigate. And I think that, A, that's important for the world building that nobody cares. And we're not even going to try and hide this from the people who are watching nearby. Like, here, kids, splattered brains and a half pancaked human. Who cares? But also, it just goes to show that everybody in this world is so used to this gore, the audience should be as well. And do you think that's a part of the movie's appeal, the way it does that?
I think it is. I mean, I appreciate when, like, granted, I don't want to just like watch like extended scenes of gore and like torture, but I do appreciate it not shying away from it either. And yeah, I do think you're right on the money there. It's like everybody else, they live in a world of violence and life can be ended in an instant, and nobody is protected from seeing these things, from seeing the harsh realities of the world. I appreciate that it's unflinching without being gratuitous. Because I think it's oddly enough, it's relevant to where we're at today. We are hyper exposed to violence and death and desensitized to it. So I think holding that shot a little bit longer where you're like, oh shit, that's actually like that's really gory. That's really bloody. Like I think it works in the context of the movie, and it works. I think it's the right choice. Definitely the right choice.
Yeah, and I think it also something that they do right at the start that I feel like a lot of people miss is Dredd himself gives you this voiceover about how the judges are the only ones fighting for order in the chaos, and
Hmm.
everybody kind of knows what the judges are. They are judge, jury, and executioner. But in that opening chase, where it would be very easy to say that all Judge Dredd or all judges in general do is kill people, they're just killers with a badge, he doesn't actually decide to kill the people he's chasing until they run over someone, which is again
Hmm.
another very visceral death where they don't so
Yeah.
much run him over as he goes splat on their windscreen. And I love the fact that he sees that and he's like tells the control that like, nah, they just killed an innocent. I'm
Yeah.
taking him down now. Like
Yeah.
that's the difference between Dredd and, well, I guess the corrupt judges that show up later. It's like he will follow the system to an
Right.
agonizing degree because
There is a code.
that's what that whole thing is supposed to be for. Like we are the order. It doesn't work if we don't follow it.
I really like. I think. I mean, so I did watch. This is like we're diverting. I watched the original Judge Dredd for the first time, maybe like a week or so ago. The Stallone one. I'd never seen it before.
Oh, I wish I'd known that. We could have done that one.
Well, I watched it like in preparation. I was like, let me like get the full context and be able to compare and
Wow.
contrast.
Okay, this should be interesting then.
I think that, I mean, I also have to, like I'm probably biased because I had seen Dredd before and seen it so many times and I had such a strong attachment to it. But I think like Karl Urban's whole vibe and his tone, I think it just makes so much more sense for this story. Like I loved all the costuming in Judge Dredd and how it kind of had like a Verhoeven-y, like Total Recall, like it was like kooky and like colorful and more like comic booky, and less serious in this one.
The
But I think
Stallone
like
one
the
you're talking
more,
about.
yeah, the Stallone one,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that the more serious tone works more for this. I think Karl Urban never taking his helmet off or smiling was the right thing to do. I love he's in his little Christian Bale Batman gruff voice. I'm not going to do it. I can't do the voice, so I won't do the voice. But yeah,
It's funny you say that because one of the things I actually noticed this time around is he definitely does have that voice. But the reason why I think it works and the reason why people don't have as much of an issue with it as they do, say, the Christian Bale voice is he doesn't maintain it all the way through. Whenever he's with Anderson, he speaks relatively normal. It's a bit of a harsh tone, but he doesn't keep that voice on 100% of the time. He's very tactical with it. Like he only uses it when he's dealing with perps or if he's in the middle of a tense situation and he talks low, which makes a lot more sense than just constantly being like, "Hey Anderson, come over here," you know?
Like get this man a throat lozenge. It's not looking good.
And the other thing, since you've mentioned the Stallone version, I know why he was cast and I know why they wanted him because I assume you've seen Cobra.
Yes, I have seen Cobra.
Which is basically Judge Dredd in an 80s look. And that's what they wanted him to do in Dredd because everything in the Stallone film, aesthetically speaking, is pretty much comic book accurate. Like if you were to see drawings of how Dredd looks in the comics and compare him to that shot of him at the opening of the film coming in on his bike, it's practically like ripped straight out of the pages. It's
nice.
They did a really good job. The problem is that opening sequence is the only time you see that costume, you see him in the helmet, and that's it then. It's basically a Stallone movie after that. And the interesting thing about it is there's conflicting reports on whether that was Stallone's choice or whether that was the studio's choice because they're paying Sylvester Stallone's salary. They want his goddamn face to be seen in this movie.
Right.
They don't want it hidden behind a costume and a helmet. And I get that, but at the same time, I think even if he had been in the helmet, I just don't think Stallone understood the assignment to steal another generation's quote. Because if you listen to the way he says a lot of his dialogues, he really doesn't sound like he understands what the tone of the movie is, like what the tone of the character is. And I actually think that you can really contrast this perfectly, because there's one line that both of them say, and it's night and day. It's the difference between "I am the law" versus "I am the law," and it's like, come on,
Pretty
man.
good. Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah. I'm not some sort of like eminent Stallone scholar by any means, but I feel like in a lot of the movies that I've seen him in, Sylvester Stallone is just playing Sylvester Stallone a lot of the time.
There are movies where he's not. Like, if you actually wanted to watch them, he's got a couple where he genuinely does act. I mean, the most obvious one is First Blood, but the second one that a lot of people forget is Copland, where he is definitely not Stallone.
Okay, that's true. That's true. He is really good in Copland.
And I feel like, unfortunately, in that era, it was kind of the dregs of the old studio system where you didn't hire an actor, you hired the name. If you hired Sylvester Stallone, you wanted Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
You hired Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jean-Claude Van Damme or whoever it was, you didn't want them to act. You wanted them to just be them, you know. That's what we hired you for. Get out there and be you. Make money.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, Jason Statham is still pretty much doing that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, fine by me.
Dwayne Johnson is doing that. And again, Dwayne can definitely act.
Yeah.
Jason tries, and the rest of them, you know, they all have one or two films, the big action guys, where you think, oh, they can actually act. But I just think that, realistically speaking, if you put in a Dolph Lundgren movie and you end up sitting there watching a guy crying because his daughter has cancer, the people who bought the Dolph Lundgren movie probably didn't buy it to watch him cry about his daughter's cancer. They wanted to watch him kick cancer's ass with guns, explosions, and bare knuckle fistfights. So it's a mismatch, like you say, of you got to give the people what they want to a degree. You can have your sentimental story, sure, and have your emotional moments, but you got to have the rest of it too. Otherwise, who's buying your movie, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I've completely lost how I was going to link that tangent back to Judge Dredd. But
that's okay.
I mean, you've listened to at least one episode of this show. Tangents are our speciality here. We never link them back. They're usually a complete mess anyway.
What is a podcast without a couple tangents, you know, at the end of the day?
Yes. But the other person who we've not mentioned at all, like you've mentioned Anderson a few times, but Lena Headey's as Mama. I mean,
incredible in this.
Especially at the time it came out, I'm pretty sure that it was just before Game of Thrones.
Yes,
but it was
I actually looked it up and I wrote it down because I was like, I need to know, like, how did they know that she was going to be so good at being so fucking scary? But yeah, this was
If I remember correctly, and maybe you know the answer to this too, isn't this also after she was Sarah Connor on the Sarah Connor Chronicles for Terminator?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure Dredd is smack bang in the middle of Sarah Connor Chronicles had just, well, I'll be charitable and say ended. And then this came out, and then she was going to be in this weird TV show, Game of Thrones. Like, oh yeah, that looks like a Lord of the Rings ripoff. That'll never go anywhere. But, you know, so she didn't do badly those few years. Like, solid work all around.
It's on a hot streak. Oh yeah.
Yes. But no, you're absolutely right. She is actually not in this movie as much as I remembered. Like, she's in it a fair amount, but a lot of the time she is just kind of standing there in the background, looking either menacing or sexy, or sometimes both. But but you know, when she speaks, she just steals all the scenes. She's just something about the way she plays Mama definitely got her noticed, I suspect, by a lot of casting people, because there's definitely a lot of her future roles in this one.
Totally. I just love when a woman gets to be evil and not like, just let her be a little evil. Come on, it's okay. Just let her be bad. I like that she's not like I mean, obviously she is just like inherently sexy, just the way that she is, the way she carries herself, and the menacing thing does also kind of carry over into being sexy sometimes, but she's not like, she's not dolled up, her boobs aren't pushed out, like her hair is messy, her makeup's messy, she's in baggy clothes. Like, I like that. I really appreciate that. One of my like biggest pet peeves of women in action movies specific, and not with the women, it's with the stylists and the people in charge of these decisions, but like, nobody is fighting in real life. You're not going to fight for your life with your perfectly blown out curls down around your face. You're not fighting for your life in like giant fake eyelashes and a crazy low cut top. That's not happening. That's not happening. So I like that that she's not dolled up. Anderson's hair is super cute in this, but she's not overly dolled up either. And like in Annihilation, all the gals have their hair pulled back in a ponytail the whole time. I'm like, thank you. But I digress. I love an evil woman. She is so good. And yeah, she's not in it for that long, but like every second that she's on screen, it's like she totally commands. Yeah, and I like that they make her a little ugly. I like that. I like and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I agree. As I say, at the time, I had seen her in something else, but it was a long time ago now. I failed to think what it is. But I mostly knew her as Sarah Connor from the Connor Chronicles. And going from that to this was like, she could be intimidating as Sarah Connor, but this was like, wow, this is like a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. And I was not disappointed at how much she's in it, because again, I remembered her being in it a lot more. So she does leave an impression.
She looms large.
Yes. Well, I think what I realized what I was missing is, other than when she takes the Gatling gun briefly, she doesn't actually get to have any sequences of herself. She doesn't go out and kick ass, which after watch her do it for 2 years as Sarah Connor, I was like, come on, I know it's coming. Oh, no, it's not. As she falls out the window. But again, what she did do was really nice. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of people, probably one of the most memorable moments that she does do in the movie isn't actually real, because it's when she comes in to help Anderson break their suspect in her psychic interrogation, which again is a lot more graphic than people might have been expecting. Certainly caught me by surprise the first time I watched it.
Jump scare.
Well, I mean, all of Anderson's like psychic sequences with the guy. Well, I want to call K for some reason. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, his name is K.
Oh, it's right. K. And you know, they're all, the way they're shot, the lighting, the content. It is very much like a jump scare. Like that whole like jump scare era of YouTube and horror game streamers hadn't really come into its own yet. And it kind of feels like this film nailed that before it started to be like completely overdone by every other film. And this isn't even that type of film. So I kind of give it props in that respect, because yeah, whenever those moments do just sort of flash across the screen, you can definitely tell what's happening, but they don't linger on it long enough for you to sort of get numb to it. It's shocking every time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's edited really, really well. I was appreciating that in that scene of Anderson and Kay, and you know, she's getting inside his head, and yeah, I appreciate like it's just these little flashes, these little things that really does make it feel like it is, you know, somebody's messing around in your mind versus like holding on a scene for a long time. I think this movie is really, really well assembled. The pieces are all put together very thoughtfully. I love when like Kay and Anderson are in the elevator together, and just Wood Harris's delivery of this line makes me crack up every time. He's like, psychic, huh? So fucked up. Like that just, I don't know, that kills me every time. I think it's so funny. He's so good in this. Wood Harris is really good in this.
Yeah. I'd forgotten how long he actually does spend just being like pulled along by the two of them. Like he just, because for a decent chunk of his runtime, he is just kind of stood there. Like he doesn't get any dialogue until Dredd and Anderson separate for the first time. And then after that, he's a bit more chatty. But prior to that, the only time he says something is in the elevator, like you said, where Anderson's like, he's thinking of going for your gun. And I just love Dredd's just like, yep. Like, of course he is. I've done this once or twice.
He changed his mind.
Yeah. Just the nonchalant attitude of Dredd. Like, I don't have to be psychic to know what he's going to do, kid. So, speaking of the action, I'm curious, did you feel like the nature of the action was different to your average sort of fight sequence? Because one thing that I really appreciated, especially on this rewatch, obviously before we started recording, we were briefly talking about my Den of Thieves episode with Chris Barreras, and he and I spend a significant portion of that episode talking about the tactical action, where they move more realistically and how actual soldiers would move. I had forgotten that they do that in this film too, especially at the end when Anderson has found her confidence and she's killed Kay. When the two of them team up to go through the last, floor of Mama's forces, they are just moving in perfect sync. Like, it's probably one of the best portrayals of how an actual unit would maneuver, because they don't say anything. They just move in complete silence and just tap each other on the shoulder every now and then. And I thought that again, it's very easy for that to get lost in all the slow-mo sequences, the big fight between all the judges, the big Gatling gun sequence. There's just these smaller fight scenes that are very, very quick, but very, very efficient. And I think that in and of itself makes them quite enjoyable. Yeah,
I really, her arc throughout the movie, I love. And I love how Olivia Thirlby, you see it, that carry over so much into her physicality. It's a great physical performance. The way she carries herself at the end of the movie is different. And yeah, I don't have the same tactical eye that you or Chris do, but I definitely had picked up on that much. Like, oh yeah, she's like, her head is held high. And even at the end, like in the beginning, Dredd says, you don't look ready. She's, oh, it's just adrenaline, sir. But then at the end, he says, you look ready.
Yeah, and I still do like the line at the beginning when everything starts going wrong and he's like, is this your first time in real combat? Yes, sir. And he's like, well, I was wondering when you were going to remember that you left your helmet on your bike. And it's probably the closest Dredd comes to delivering a joke when she's like, oh, but the helmet interferes with my abilities. And then there's a pause followed by, the bullet might interfere with them more. I love the delivery of that line so much.
Yeah.
And like you say, like in the beginning of the film, she's almost like hesitant to confront people. Understandably, it's quite a heavy thing to do. And then when she finally like takes Kay out, suddenly she turns into this like martial arts badass. Like she roundhouse kicks him whilst handcuffed, and then go on.
Yes, okay, that was the other one of my favorite parts of the movie that slipped my mind. That moment, the process of him realizing his whole fucking hand just got blown off. He falls where she gets up and still handcuffed, just like the most smooth, gorgeous roundhouse kick to his head. That's will get me up off the couch in my own house. But yeah, that part is, it's perfect.
I loved your delivery of that sentence then. It's like, yeah, that would get me up. Off the couch.
In my living
house.
Keep in my own house. Like it's happening here. Like, I mean, like I'll be watching it alone, like cheering. Like that's how hype it gets me.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, that whole sequence where she then goes outside and takes two guys out and steals their gun. I was like, where did this come from? Like, have you had these skills this entire time? Like,
he's arrived.
What switch just got flipped in you to make this happen? And like you say, it's so good. And then she gets to save Dredd. And again, which is something that I feel like in a lot of other movies, you'd be like, oh, well, how does the rookie get to save the guy that like the other judges are afraid of? But again, I don't know if it's the way it's done, the way they're written or what, but you never get to that moment and think, oh, that wasn't earned. It's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Even Dredd says to the judge, like, I was waiting for her to shoot you. Like, it's just such a nice moment, like you say, of the journey that she went through. And Dredd himself is just like, yep, cool, you're a judge now. Like, that's
Mhm.
that's we've all been there. It's just, I love his just completely unimpressed by it, but also very happy it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like subverting kind of that typical rhythm where you would think, like, okay, like obviously, like the established badass is going to be saving the rookie all the time, but it's also like that the woman gets to save the man once. That's cool. I like that. It might be a pretty basic note on the movie, but I did like it. Yeah, she's less experienced, and less experienced younger woman actually does get to bail out the big scary badass guy by the end. I love that. That makes me happy.
Well, I think as well, there is like a sort of message in there somewhere that can get a bit lost, but a decent chunk of this movie, it becomes very clear that mutants aren't liked, which to
Mm-hmm.
me, as somebody that had actually read books of Dredd, was not shocking. Like, yeah, there's lots of classism in Dredd, and mutants is just
Absolutely.
one of many. And the fact that I think a big part of why she suddenly does become a lot more dangerous is because she just kind of stops caring about that. Like, because she goes from only using her abilities either in like desperate need or when someone has asked her to, and then at the end, it's just she's just fully using them. Like, she's
Mm-hmm.
sensing people before they're there. And I love the twist on, that the female judge that tries to convince her she's there to help her, and then she just fills her full of bullets because she can just tell straight away that she's
Yeah.
lying. And I love the fact that she stopped basically hiding who she was. It's like, yes, I am
Mm-hmm.
overpowered and broken. Deal with it.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate also that there was no, and granted, I'm not familiar with like the comics or the books or anything like that, so I don't know about any precedent in there. But I just appreciate when we can have a movie with a male lead and a female lead, and it doesn't turn out to be a romance subplot. Like, can we just work together? Can we just accomplish something? And that's something that like I didn't wasn't able to clock it when I was younger, but like I grew up watching a lot of Miyazaki movies, and that's something that is like a common thing with like he can just write like a strong girl, a strong female character, and she can team up with a guy, but it's not going to be about them falling in love and getting together. Like I really appreciate that. That's always like refreshing to see, and there's no longing glances or any dumb stuff like let's get this job done. They can just be equals.
Yes, I agree. I actually was going to bring that up as well because Dredd, I can't say for definite that there isn't like romance in the Dredd books because there's a lot of them. There probably is some elements of it, but in general, Dredd is not. He ain't interested in that. Like, his whole
Yeah.
life is basically being a judge, and nearly all of the judges that he's trained in the books have been very attractive women, and
Mm.
he's never been like tried to romantically get with any of them. Like you said, he is all about the professionalism of, I'm going to train you, or we're going to work together on this case, and then we're both going separate ways. Like, there's
Yeah.
no, I almost feel like he deliberately doesn't attach himself because of the fact that, like, yeah, you could be
Yeah.
dead tomorrow for all I know. I could be
Yeah.
dead tomorrow. Like, what's the point?
Right. No, there's definitely an intentional distance being kept. I mean, you would have to detach yourself to a pretty serious degree to be able to do that job in that world. And yeah, it doesn't make sense to be getting wifed up when either of you could be dead the next day. It's more trouble than it's worth at that point.
And
Yeah,
again,
I
if
didn't love the kind of half-ass romance in the Judge Dredd movie with who is it? Is it it's not Carrie Russell. Who's the
don't I
young
have no idea. I haven't seen
Diane
that movie
Lane.
in years. Oh, okay.
It's Diane Lane. Okay. Yeah, I didn't need that, didn't love that. And yeah, I think it's unnecessary.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think unfortunately the 90s was that tail end of that belief that you have to have a romance subplot in every
Right.
movie, no matter what genre, no matter what story, you will have a romance because that's how we get the women in the cinema. That's how we get our other half of the sales tickets, guys.
No, you get the women in the cinema by making the blood glittery. That's how you get them in there.
Ah, I thought I thought it was just Jean-Claude just, showing his ass. That seemed to do it for most of the time.
Well, that helps. So it certainly doesn't hurt.
Damn, if only they'd had the forethought to put some glittery blood in one of his movies, it would have broken the box office. But no, I mean, Dredd's predecessor to Anderson, like his previous trainee in the books anyway, was Judge Hershey. And I have never noticed it before, but I did notice this time in that opening sequence where they show you all of the current calls for requests and where the judges are going. Hershey was actually one of the judges that they spent like a second hovering over the name of. So
okay.
I did appreciate the fact that some of the other judges were characters from the books. The judge in charge isn't, but she's kind of like an amalgamation of different, captains for sake of another word, that have been in the books. So again, if they'd made more films, I feel like there was a good opportunity to expand the universe. Like Anderson would have been a full judge. We could have met Hershey. We could have had, there are so many different directions that the story could go in. They could go in the more fantastical, but they could also keep it just as grounded as this one is. Especially if they want to keep it like a little bit disturbing, like really lean into just how messed up this world is under the surface. Like, mutants are not the only things that exist in the Dredd world. Like, if I remember correctly, one of the main like criminals that Dredd was constantly chasing was like, it looked almost like a cybernetic Frankenstein. Like that could have been interesting in this version of the movie to see how they come up with grounded ways of making those characters work, because that can be really interesting. It could also be really boring in some films, but I don't think that would have been the case for this one, because they did such a good job with these characters,
Yeah. So would you have liked to have seen a sequel to this?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember so one of the producers for this movie, and another fun fact is Karl Urban did all the bike riding himself.
Really? That's so cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
Because the bikes are called the Lawmakers, and he was like, if we're gonna have me on the bike, like I want to ride them. Like that's a part of his condition for accepting it was I'm riding the bike.
Hell yeah, Karl Urban. Respect.
Because I believe that the bikes in the first film didn't actually work. They were all like pulled and camera trickery to show them moving.
Okay.
Whereas in this one, part of the reason why the Law Masters were like toned down in how much like crap they have on them was specifically because
they could actually move.
They actually worked. They could be real bikes. So one of the producers for this movie is he's famous in his own right, but I'd also say for some people he's a little bit infamous, but you might have heard of him. He's called Adi Shankar. And he has made the Castlevania series for Netflix. He's currently doing the Devil May Cry series. He also did and I'm saying did, there's always the threat that he might make more, but he did a series of things that he called bootleg movies, which were basically stuff he did straight to YouTube, where it's a proper Hollywood level production, but they're not licensed. So the first one he did that I remember got a lot of news was he did a Punisher one called Dirty Laundry, but he got Thomas Jane to reprise the role of the Punisher from the 2000s movie. And it was good, I hasten to add. And then he did an unofficial Venom short movie before Venom was even a thing. And he did Power Rangers. He did the R-rated Power Rangers movie that got way more eyes on it because it was Power Rangers and because people had very strong opinions about that, apparently, of all things. But he's always been somebody that is happy to talk to people. And I remember 11-ish years ago, I actually got the chance to speak with him. And the one thing I wasn't allowed to ask him about was Dredd 2, which at that point was still a possibility. because it was a possibility. And
okay, that makes sense.
They apparently they almost did manage it a couple times. And then I don't know if you know this, but there has been talk for forever that they were going to do a limited run TV series called Mega City 1. And
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's still listed on IMDb. Like I saw it earlier when I was looking for Dredd, because it wouldn't be about Dredd, but Dredd would appear in it. And originally they had said that Karl Urban would be playing Dredd again, but that was like 5 years ago. So who knows if that's still true. But I still think it would be interesting to make a show that's more about the world of Mega City 1 rather than specifically focusing on Dredd. Like you say, we could follow Anderson, or we could follow an original character, going back to what I said about Fallout. Like, there are ways you could make that interesting, but at the same time, there are many ways I can think of that you could mess that up as well. So, what about you?
In general, I'm not a huge fan of like the endless like sequeling / rebooting thing that we've been doing for these last few years. I really kind of loathe it. But that said, there is a way that it could be done really well and could be really cool. If it was done well, I would love to spend way more time in this world, either with Dredd Anderson or with other folks. It would just need to be done really, really well. I would trust Alex. Alex Garland's pretty busy, but I would trust him to do it. But yeah, a lot of times I'm very wary of the endless sequeling and rebooting thing.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. I'm not a massive fan of rebooting in general. He says excited for the new Running Man, but you know, but I'm excited for the Running Man because it actually looks different but still interesting. Whereas to stick with an Arnold remake, I was never excited for the Total Recall reboot, and I like both of the lead actors, but that thing looked horrible from the word go, and it was. Yeah, I'm glad we agree. But yeah, I think that, you know, in general, there are too many spin-offs, reboots, prequels, sequels, pre-sequels, television series to link back to a movie that then will get turned into a movie again. It's too much. Every franchise can't have that. Like, you have to have just if you have enough success, just be happy of making a couple movies. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. You can just like end the story and close the book and it's okay. Like, you made a really good thing. Just let it be really good instead of dragging it on and making it and sullying its reputation because you couldn't let go, because you wanted to squeeze a little bit more few more drops of money out of the cash cow. Just let it go. Let it be.
Or I can understand that one. The one I really struggle with is not letting go after everybody else has told you quite loudly that we're not going to watch this, and yet you keep making it and trying to tell everyone it was a success. You know, that seems to happen a lot.
Mind right now, and anything in particular that fits that bill?
There is, but I've learned that like saying what you're talking about doesn't usually end well.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, I'm really looking forward to the day I cover any film that says directed by Zack Snyder in the credits. Like, that's going to be interesting. But yeah, unless there's anything that you want to bring up that we've forgotten, I feel like we might have reached the conclusion.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground today. I think I'm good.
Sweet. Well, where can people find you online if they've found you that delightable that they want to come and stalk you some more?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm not going to call it that other name because that's lame. At Zoe Elizabeth, how you think it's spelled, JPG, all one word, all lowercase.
Nice.
And that's it. Don't go looking for me any farther. You stop there.
Yes, she doesn't exist anywhere else, guys.
I'm a figment of your imagination, and on Twitter.
Oh God, I hope not. This will make this episode really weird to listen to. With that said, guys, I think all that is left for me to do is to hand you over to the me of the future. Interestingly, you kind of got our thoughts on the other Dredd movie, so if I was even thinking about doing that, I kind of don't have to now. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the outro in just a sec. So thank you once again, Zoe, for being here. I hope you had fun.
Thank you so much, Scott. I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
And there we go. That's it. You've made it to the end of the show. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you once again to Zoe for coming on, and I hope you'll be excited for her return, which will be in a few episodes' time. The next episode is going to see the return of another one of our favorite guests that we have on the show. That would be good old Lindsay from Schlock and Awe. And we actually talk about 2 movies. Yes, that's right. We're doing a double bill. And this is unusual for this show, but it will actually not be the last one because she's been on since with another recurring guest, but that won't be out for a while yet, where we did another double bill. And wow. Sorry, I'm just seeing how many of these episodes away that actually is. It's not actually as bad as it looks because some of these are the interview episodes which have been coming out anyway. But yeah, the next episode will be with Lindsay on a double bill. And it is on Zombie Fight Club and something else. I can't remember the name of the other movie. It's 2 zombie-themed films that are a mix of horror and action. One is very much horror, action, comedy, and the other one is not. And it's a very interesting conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. They were first-time watches for both of us, so it was good fun to just go in blind. And I'm really looking forward to you guys hearing it. After that, it will be a conversation with Eric Jacobus to look forward to. And just like our conversation with Johnny Young Bosch, I will be making the effort to make a video version of it. So that will be on YouTube and Spotify if you want to watch it that way. Or if you just prefer to listen to your podcasts that way, whatever. But that's going to take a minute to edit. But fingers crossed they'll both be out within relative good time of each other. And then after that, there is now another conversation with episode that pretty much came out of nowhere, and is not the one that I thought we would be doing next. That one is currently still under development, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I hope you guys are excited for all the stuff that's to come. We still have quite a few episodes in the bank, and I've already got a couple more ready to go, so yeah, fingers crossed you guys will like what's coming up in the next few weeks. There's some pretty solid choices for films, and there's some new voices to go along with them. So stay excited. I hope you guys are having a good 2026, and I shall see you in the next one.
On the Action Addicts Podcast.